It is a beautiful day for a wingy. Happy Saturday to one and all. Hope you guys are having a great day. It is a gorgeous, sunny, 75-degree Saturday here in San Diego, and we got a lot to talk about today because, as we saw last night on Smackdown, Cody Rhodes is once again WWE champion, defeating Drew McIntyre last night in the main event of Smackdown to win the title again for the third time, and now seemingly will go into Wrestlemania to face Randy Orton one-on-one for the championship. We don't know 100% if that's what's going to happen, but that does look like the plan right now. Always a chance in the next couple of weeks that other players could get added. As a matter of fact, I think next week on SmackDown, they already have a contract signing scheduled. So that means, or that tells me anyway, that WWE is probably just trying to fast track that match and make it official. That way fans will stop wondering if we're going to get some multi-man match. Looks to be Cody and Randy Orton as the plan one-on-one, and if Cody is the champion, then I feel like that's the best match. Now, if Drew would have retained last night, I was still very much looking for that three-way or that four-way for the title at Mania, which I still believe would have been just fine. But WWE made some sort of a creative pivot. You could kind of see the writing on the wall, the way Elimination Chamber shook out, and then Aldis after the show going on that rant, booking Cody and Drew for Friday Night SmackDown for the title. And it was kind of leaked earlier on in the week that WWE is going to put the belt on Cody, and they're going to do Cody and Orton because Orton won the Chamber. So we had to wait until last night to see if that actually came to fruition or not. It did. Cody's the champ. And poor Drew McIntyre now might be left out in the cold, which, you know, a match against Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania isn't necessarily a bad thing, but he's going to lose that match if he faces Jacob Fatu. So I feel a little bit bad for Drew McIntyre today, but we're going to talk about that, talk about last night's SmackDown and the implications of Cody winning the WWE title for a third time. A lot of fans fine with this, a lot of fans not fine with this, and I think this might be the one title win that starts to put Cody over the edge there, over, kind of crossing that line in terms of what fans are willing to tolerate. And when a wrestler's reputation starts treading into that Cena category, always getting the opportunities, Sami Zayn is voicing these very same complaints backstage in kayfabe. So this might be the title victory that kind of is the catalyst for, or sets in motion, what will be an eventual Cody Rhodes heel turn down the road, because I think the criticism last night was pretty loud and pretty fair. I love Cody Rhodes. I thought when he came to the WWE in 2022, something just felt different about him. So I have no issue with him winning the championship, but I can kind of understand some of those complaints, and we're going to look at all of those today, and we're going to pretty much open up with this story, Cody Rhodes winning the title last night on SmackDown, and we will run through a review of last night's SmackDown as well. Also on tap for today, we've got wrestling news to get into. Road Dogg has quit WWE, so we're going to spend some time talking about Road Dogg and his departure and how that came about and what that could mean for his future, and another WWE writer shakeup as we have a brand new VP and head writer of Monday Night Raw. We'll talk about her. I didn't get into this last week because the news had just broke and it was kind of just, oh my God, I didn't even want to dive into it because it's kind of frustrating, but we are going to talk about how the Paramount and WBD merger could affect AEW down the road. So we'll be getting into that as well. Going to talk about couple of random things. I'm going to talk about the Zoe Hines signing. Also going to talk about possibly Tom Brady coming into the WWE. And we have some well wishes for Conan, who reportedly might be here in San Diego undergoing some serious health complications. So we're going to talk about Conan and what we know about that situation, although nothing yet is confirmed from him or his family or people close to him. Also going to talk about Mercedes Moné dropping yet another belt last night at CMLL La Noche de las Amazonas. So she is down one more belt last night, so we'll talk about that. Also, we've got Vengeance coming up tonight along with Collision. So NXT Vengeance and Collision is going to be going head-to-head with each other. Vengeance starts an hour earlier than Collision does, which means we're going to overlap here about 20 to 30 minutes into Vengeance. I'm sorry about that. It's just the best time I really had to do this today. So this podcast is going to overlap into about the first few minutes of Vengeance. Sorry about that, but we will be done before Collision. We'll We'll also talk about this past week's Dynamite and how Revolution is shaping up so far, and we'll get a little preview for tonight's Collision, which I believe is live. I don't think they taped this after Dynamite, so tonight is a live Collision going head-to-head with a live Vengeance Day in NXT. So that's kind of what's on tap here for this afternoon, and thanks for being here, guys. Welcome. Happy Saturday to you. I'll do some shout-outs real quick, let you guys know what's on the tap, or on the schedule, I should say, for tomorrow, and it should be a fun one. Don't forget, we got to switch them clocks tonight, which sucks. So spring ahead 1 hour tonight at 2 a.m. So we are going to be pretty early tomorrow for the watch along. It's still going to be sunny out when we do that. But anyway, let's do some quick shout outs here so we can get into the news so I don't keep you guys too long in case you want to watch Vengeance Day and Collision and you don't want to be looking at my bald ass flapping his gums. Let's get down to business here. Good to see Zane G, my boy. Happy you're here. Ryan Adams is here too. So is Tatnani. We got Mike Rouse, EF0 tornado. What the fuck is that? Is that higher than an F5? Stay safe, Mike. We had tornadoes ripping through my home state of Michigan yesterday. Hope everybody is okay there as well. William Cullen, good to see you. Red Raven Rucker. We got Boris. Jim K is in the house. We got handsome Steve Jacobson. That makes two of us. Good to see Garrett Osborne. Chaz Medeiros. We have David Brown. Gabriel Palacios. You like the lounge music? Thanks. Appreciate that. We've got Ricky Zalvadar. Kevin Mosh. Good to see you. Sports in Things shows. Good to see you too. Ben Espinoza is here. Jacob, the zombie fighter in the house. Stephen Harris, Shell Shock, Isaac, Stone Cold, Mega Teddy. Anybody else chiming in, thank you so much for being here. You know that thumbs up button down there? Smash that shit. If you drop a super chat in, we will answer those today. And thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Tomorrow, Sunday, is when we do classic pay-per-view watch-alongs. We have tomorrow already set. The link is up, and we are going to be here to watch Wrestlemania 26. So of the WrestleManias we have not done, in terms of the first 30, we have not done WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 25, 26, 27, 29, and 30. Those are the ones we have not done. So we're going to do WrestleMania 26 tomorrow. I probably should have done WrestleMania 25 tomorrow because I think we're also going to do WrestleMania 25 this WrestleMania season. So it was probably smarter to do that one first, but we're going to do WrestleMania 6 tomorrow because I have a few memories I'd like to share with you guys about that show. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll circle back and do WrestleMania 25. I even have a lot of my WrestleMania schedule already typed out. We'll kind of discuss that tomorrow when we're doing the watch along to let you guys know what other watch alongs we're doing and what other stuff I have planned for WrestleMania. So that's on tap right now. I have not seen a Raw review yet for Monday, and I can't remember this past Monday if they set anything up or advertised. I don't even remember. By the way, we did a big Raw review on Monday talking about the show and talking about all of the social media beef and drama between Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. And of course, we had the face-to-face between them last night. So check out this past week's Raw review if you have not seen that. In terms of this week, my plan is to be up here for a review or a watch-along, but I don't know what WWE has planned. If it's like an off week, Brock's not back yet. He's not coming till the following week. And if Roman is off the show, it's just going to be Punk selling this shit again by himself, and I don't know what we can really set up that might be worth doing a review of on Monday. So we're going to monitor that, but I think the plan is for me to still be here for either a watch-along or a review on Monday, unless they set up a show that just looks like it absolutely stinks. Then maybe we won't do anything, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. But tomorrow is a done deal, WrestleMania 26. It should be fun. Lots of memories. That's my final WrestleMania in North Carolina. And that WrestleMania aired about 2 weeks, maybe less, before I began this YouTube channel. My first video posted on April 11th, 2010. So it's going to be 16 years in about a month. And that was just days after WrestleMania 26, I believe. So we will be sharing some memories tomorrow night. So make sure you are here. Okay, let's get down to business. Let's talk about Smackdown last night. Friday Night Smackdown, we learned at Elimination Chamber last Saturday after Drew McIntyre stuck his big sexy snout in that Elimination Chamber, and that sent Nick Aldis over the edge into the deep end, and now he's pissed, and he booked a championship match for SmackDown, screamed it at us in the post-show last Saturday that McIntyre wants to play stupid games. He's going to win stupid prizes in the form of a title match that he doesn't want. A title match that, according to him, he had contractually been safe from. apparently after he beat Cody, he made a big deal about it. He said he had it put in the contract that there was no rematch. But because of how much he was interfering in all of these matches, these qualifiers, and the chamber itself, all this is just like, fuck you, we're doing this match anyway, and there was no way out of it. Drew tried to talk his way out of it earlier on in the show when he confronted Aldis, but Aldis is like, no, you're going out there, and that's just what's happening. So there was no way for Drew to avoid the match. Now, another thing that we saw last night on SmackDown prior to this main event, by the way, we're doing a SmackDown review right here, but I'm starting with the Cody stuff, and then we're going to backtrack and talk about the rest in case you're wondering what the hell's going on here. So prior to Cody and Drew's match, backstage, we had two very interesting backstage interactions. One with Sammy and Cody, and then one with Sammy and Drew. And of course, Sammy, he's walking around here not understanding why everybody else is getting these opportunities other than him. He keeps falling short. He is so determined to be a world champion, but all these other guys just keep getting opportunities. They keep taking advantages of situations, like what happened to Sammy in that qualifier. And he's been kind of harping on that, very passive-aggressive conversations he's been having with Cody. And he approaches Cody last night on SmackDown, and, he kind of says, he kind of rehashes, what happened, in their qualifier, and he's trying to, he's saying things like, where did I put all this stuff? When Cody is kind of going through his prep, Sammy comes up and talks about how it's crazy that this match is happening. And Cody just looks, I loved Cody's demeanor here because he just looks like fed up and doesn't have time for this shit. And here comes Sammy. He's like, what's weird about it, Sammy? What the fuck? Like, what is your problem? So Sammy goes on, talk a few more minutes, and Cody just basically doesn't have time for this. Bro, don't be bringing this energy into my space. I'm trying to get mentally ready for what could be one of the biggest title matches of my entire life. WrestleMania implications is on the line, and here your jealous ass comes, meh, 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 meh. And so I kind of liked that Cody was like, bro, just Heisman him. Get the fuck out of here right now. I haven't even won the championship yet, and you're politicking for a match. Get up out my face. So Sammy, leaves. Few segments later, he's back there talking to Randy Orton. And he talks to Randy Orton about how he took advantage of that situation in the chamber. You and Cody are supposed to be best friends, and you essentially did to him exactly what he did to me. My question to you is, do you think that makes you a bad person? A bad person? What is elementary school? What do you mean a bad person? And Orton's like, no, it makes me a 14-time champ. And Cody a few weeks back said something similar. Maybe the reason that I've been a multi-time champion and you've never held a world title, is because I and people like me take advantage of situations and opportunities. And that's why Orton is a 14-time champ, Cody's a 3. So I like this stuff with Sammy. I like what they're doing. This is very intriguing. It's great watching him kind of go through it. Because Sammy, you can tell this is going to bubble into massive frustration. And you can tell, you can bet that when Cody won, that the things that's going to do to Sami Zayn's character. So WWE, I would like to think, even though this year's main event, we're going to talk about Orton and Cody here in just a second, but the way this main event just seems like it was put together without any conviction, very hastily thrown together. I got no problem with Cody and Orton in a vacuum. That's a great match, definitely WrestleMania main event worthy. But it would be something that I would like to see kind of, maybe subtly teased, or put these guys on, on separate paths that intersect at WrestleMania or something like that. Some sort of, a plan creatively that they've been working on, this subtle plan to, to culminate at WrestleMania, this big match between Cody and Orton. But instead, it just feels like they're kind of panicking. They shouldn't really have to, but they're panicking because of the ticket sales and some of the other stuff. And oh my God, what do we do? This is a problem Vince McMahon used to have, is because when you think they've got a plan going into WrestleMania, they get nervous, they second guess themselves, and then they change everything up. So Cody and Randy Orton would have been fine. I would have loved Cody and Orton being teased for the whole year, and it finally, comes to a head here at WrestleMania, like Houston, we have a problem type of thing. But instead, they just like WWE in the creative room was like, okay, instead of this, let's just do this. And it's just not, there's no confidence in the booking. They feel like they don't have that confidence. They feel like they're second guessing themselves. And when you do that, sometimes you can fall backwards into a great thing, but other times, it really shows. It translates on camera that creatively you got your heads up your ass. So Cody and Randy Orton is Cody and Randy Orton. Two of the best pros you will ever find throughout the entire 100-year history of this damn business, okay? They are going to do fine. They have 6 weeks now to build a pretty fun program, and I think they're going to do it. I even think their match at WrestleMania is going to deliver and then some. So I'm not really worried about any of that. It's how this came together, WWE putting the title on Drew. If you're going to put the title on Drew, put the fucking title on Drew. Where is this lack of confidence in him? Drew is the same performer, he's been for years. You knew who he was when you put the belt on him a few weeks ago. And if your plan a couple of weeks ago or months ago, whenever the hell he won the title, if your plan was for him to take it into Mania, what in the fuck changed? What is Drew doing that suddenly made you not confident in him taking the belt into Mania? A few weeks ago, I had Drew not only walking into Mania, but walking out of Mania as champ. I thought he would be forced because of all the bullshit he's doing. All this is going to force him to defend the title against everybody, and then he's going to retain. And think of the obnoxious prick he will be on SmackDown after that victory, retaining the title. And instead, they've gone in a completely different direction now, where Drew not only is now likely not going to be involved in any sort of a title match, he's going to have to probably lose a singles match non-title to Jacob Fatu, if that's the direction they're going, and it appears to be. Jacob was essentially the reason maybe that Drew lost last night, taking the chair out of his hand, and so now you would expect or assume that it's going to be Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. It's possible that maybe there is an implication here, that's going to be the winner of Jacob and Drew gets the first shot at whoever the champion is at WrestleMania. They might do that. Maybe, you got to put some stakes here. Otherwise, I just feel like Drew got royally fucked. But I would make Drew Jacob at Mania, winner gets title shot at Backlash. Something like that. But otherwise, I feel a little bad for McIntyre today because he probably thought that he was going to go into Mania as champion as well. And it felt like, and we could be wrong, this is all speculation, but it feels like this was all changed. It feels like when Drew won the title, the plan was for him to go into Mania. But then WWE became unsure of themselves. They're very insecure for a company that's this big and bad and has the global reach that they do. They come off so insecure. Counter-programming AEW, this other wrestling company that they swear is not competition, that's a fraction of the size they are, that they shouldn't even care about, they're so concerned with, to where they're trying to literally stamp them out because they don't want competition. They don't want anybody doing the same thing because they don't want to have to work hard. That's the way it comes off sometimes. And I think that WWE's in a lucky spot here that everybody involved in the world title situation on the SmackDown brand are pros and are very capable of carrying any match that they're set out to lead. So Cody and Orton will be fine. Drew and Jacob will be fine. But I also think what would have been fine is McIntyre just carrying the belt into WrestleMania. You've already got your night 2 main event, Roman and Punk. So, if you did Drew in a multi-man affair and have him win, that's the key. I wouldn't like the match if Drew lost the title. I like the idea of a multi-man because I like how it sets up the possibility and the likelihood of Drew winning. Kind of like how Kurt Angle won that 6-person Armageddon match, just kind of surviving and surviving. So I kind of have that in mind for Drew. But it's going to be Cody and Orton now, and is Cody going to have another really short title run? His last one was SummerSlam to whenever the fuck the Drew match was. I can't even remember now when that match happened. And then if he wins it back here only to drop it to Randy Orton, that would be a pretty quick run for Cody as well. So how do you guys see the WrestleMania match going now? We're less than 24 hours removed from the match, so I think a lot of the backlash, not the pay-per-view backlash, but the fan backlash, people getting ornery about Cody winning is always the same old shit. Fans let their emotions overtake, rational thought all the time. I'm really not that thrilled with Cody winning either, but not because I have some stick up my ass about Cody. He is their top star. A lot of times, people in charge, promoters, Vince McMahon included, kind of always goes back to their stars when they're unsure of what to do. And So that is something that's not new. I saw one fella just before I went live here tweeted that Cody is the most overpushed star in the history of the business, and it's not even close. You have to be 16 years old to have that opinion. There is no way any sort of free-thinking, rational adult would believe that, because it's not true. The business is way longer than, these teenagers in their head or is way older than these teenagers make it out to be. He's the most overused and overpushed. It's not even close. Children, just stop. Stop letting your emotions bubble over and come out in the form of stupidity. Because that's all it is. It's same thing happened with Cena, same thing happened with Roman, same thing happens with every single fans that the fans get a goddamn boat oar up their ass about. And Cody, it's already happening, and I say WWE should lean into this. I put up a whole fantasy booking tweet last night about Cody, perhaps when the time is right, whenever he does go heel, that he should form a faction. And I think now with him winning last night, you're going to start hearing the complaints become louder and louder. And then if he does go into WrestleMania and retain over Randy Orton, I feel like between Cody and Orton and Punk and Roman, we got to have a heel turn in there somewhere. Because correct me if I'm wrong, are we looking at both of our WrestleMania main events consisting of 4 baby faces? Is it baby versus baby on night 1 and baby versus baby on night 2? Is that what we are doing? Now, I know Orton and Roman may be tweenerish, maybe a little more tweenerish than they are full-blown baby faces. But for the most part, they're being cheered. They're beloved. People are behind them. This is an all-babyface WrestleMania main event so far on both nights. So one of those matches has got to have some sort of a twist and a turn. That's what we heard about this angle. WWE wants to not go down the predictable path and take you on twists and turns. Great, we'll start twisting and turning then. Because right now, none of this shit is that spectacular. So I think Punk or Roman or Cody or Orton, one of them guys has to turn heel to win the title. Is Randy Orton going to punt kick Cody to win the title? Is CM Punk going to turn on Roman with some trick up his sleeve to retain, or what's going to happen there? I feel like we have a story beat or a storyline swerve or surprise of some kind in one or both of these matches. Because right now, it's just a lot of white meat and a lot of babyface up there. So it should be fun to see how this plays out down the line. Now, like I said, Cody now, if he's going to start gaining some more and more displeasure from the fans, I kind of had this idea last night that I put up on Twitter, like I said, where, I would have Randy beat Cody for the title at WrestleMania, but not do it by turning heel or anything like that. Just beat Cody. And then you feel like it's going to be the Orton era or the Viper era. I would even have people backstage leak it to the sites. I would have people leak out to publications and to journalists that WWE just tell Dave is all you got to do. Just tell Dave that you have a very, very long, or WWE has a long title reign planned for Randy Orton. Let that story come out. Then let the fans start fantasy booking Orton's entire run, when he's going to lose the title, who he's going to lose it to. Then on SmackDown, after WrestleMania, you even set up his next challenger. Maybe it's Drew, maybe it's Jacob. Whatever you do, you kind of imply who Orton's next challenger is going to be. But before that challenger happens, you got to get a rematch with Cody Rhodes out of the way. Maybe something happened at Mania, wasn't really fair, and so all this is going to give Cody yet another opportunity, which of course isn't going to make Sammy very happy. And you frame the match, you make us, the audience, feel like this match is just a formality. They got to get this match out of the way with Cody so Cody can move on to doing something else. But he can't have this, unfair title loss hanging over his head. You got to give him a, rematch, get that out of the way, and then Orton can set his sights on Drew or Jacob or whatever the fuck Orton is going to do. And you book the match for SmackDown or wherever, probably SmackDown, I guess, the only place to really do it. You book the match for SmackDown, and like I said, make fans think that it's just a formality. Nobody's really going into that match thinking that Cody's going to take the belt back from Randy Orton just 2 weeks after he won it. So make it feel like that. Make it feel like just a formality. Open up SmackDown, commercial-free title match to open SmackDown 2 weeks after WrestleMania. And then, boom, Cody wins the belt back. Now fans are super annoyed. Now they're losing their minds. What the fuck was the point of WrestleMania? You just put the belt back. All that. Just let them go nuts. Slobbering, drooling, throwing chairs at their TVs. Sammy losing his shit as well. The fans at home in real life are losing it. Sammy's losing in kayfabe. Everybody is pissed off. And now Cody has got heat. And maybe Cody now starts transitioning into more of a Flair-like persona. With the nice suits, and he's bragging about his diamond rings and how many times he won the title. He's QB1. He's Tom Brady talent with a Johnny Manziel brain, where he's Dorn from Major League. He gets Golden Boy tattooed on his cock. And maybe he reforms the Four Horsemen. Or Cody heads up a faction. I think reforming the Four Horsemen would be fun. Make Arn J.J. Dillon, and Cody handpicks his 3 other members. I don't care who the 3 members are. All I know is one of them has to be Dragunov. And Cody then creates a new Horseman faction. And then once they become strong enough, they boot out Arn Anderson because we don't need grandpas up in here. Now, this is the exact same thing as the Bloodline, so I don't think you can do this right away, and you don't necessarily need to do this right after WrestleMania, but based on the feedback that Cody got last night after winning the title, I think if he wins another one, fans are really going to be pissed. So I'm like, if I'm WWE, Triple H likes to work the fans, right? I would lean into it, and I would purposely piss them off just to create more heel heat for Cody. You don't want the go-away heat. You don't want it to go into Cena, Roman, Charlotte territory, but if you can build him up, change his character a little bit, maybe surround him with a faction, his own evolution. Maybe it's like Team Angle meets Evolution. That would kind of be Cody's faction, Horseman-esque type of thing, and use it to elevate 3 guys and also have it be used as guys to protect you. But for fuck's sake, don't just do what the Bloodline did. Don't have Dragunov come out in a hoodie, save Cody's title, and then reveal himself to be Dragunov. No masked men, no hoodies. Go old school. Let's railroad Spike a bitch like they did to Dusty Rhodes. And let's just get gnarly. And so, Cody with a bad attitude, killer instinct, and a gang of thugs to back him up, that could be big money down the road. But it's too close right now to the Bloodline shit and WWE creatively. I feel like if they did that with Cody, they would just make it a carbon fucking copy of the Bloodline and do everything the exact same way. And I think fans need time to breathe before that happens. But based on Cody winning the title last night, I think that might have upped how fast they're going to turn him heel. I still thought Cody's heel turn was a year away. It might be 6 months away. It might be 6 weeks away if they really want to do something crazy at WrestleMania. Because I feel like Cody or Orton, one of them has to have some sort of a surprising win. Do something that shocks us. Win the title in a way that we didn't see coming. That type of thing. So in terms of how it went down, I feel bad for Drew, but I will not jump on that bandwagon of everybody flipping their shit, because you got to understand, I've been a wrestling fan for a long time, 44 years, and I've been on YouTube now for 15 years, and I've had to hear these copy and paste arguments for Cena, or for Triple H first, Triple H, then Cena, and Charlotte, then Roman, also and Charlotte. Now it's Cody, and I don't think fans understand how repetitive and what a pattern this is. It doesn't matter who it is. Every person, once they start establishing a dynasty, fans get a stick up their ass. It's weird. I don't get it. It's as if they don't understand that this is how wrestling is. My God, since I was a kid, fucking Bruno was champion for 8 fucking years. Then Superstar for a couple. Then Backlund for another 4. Then Hogan for 4. Think about how long these title runs and how hard people who are viewed as the centerpiece of the company are pushed. This is how they are treated. Nothing's abnormal here. There's nothing weird about John Cena's push. John Cena was their Hogan. There's nothing weird about Cody's push. Cody is their John Cena. Nothing weird about Roman's push. Roman was their Hogan too. This is just the stuff that goes on in wrestling that's never been different. And fans are acting like it's the craziest shit they've ever seen. Like, did you just start watching yesterday or something? Like, what the fuck? Those of you complain, like, are you not aware of what wrestling is? Like, I don't get it. I don't get the outrage. This is right in line with everything we're used to seeing in pro wrestling and especially WWE. I don't get it. There's not much to get. I don't know why nobody gets it. There's nothing to get. Nothing to get at all. It's very simple to understand. But boy, Fans struggle with it, don't they? So the outrage and the anger is out there all directed at Cody, but fans are predictable, and outrage usually just lasts a couple of days until they move on to something else. So Cody is getting a lot of heat right now because the match just happened 15 hours ago. But give it some time. Hopefully they'll cool off. And if Cody does something crazy at WrestleMania, this might be, they might have needed to put the belt on Cody for storyline reasons because they've decided they got some big plan for Cody and Orton now. Cody and Orton isn't going to be a one and done. You'd assume Cody and Orton might be a program. It should be. That's why I think a heel turn from one of these guys could be likely. That way you have a reason to continue the story. Heel turn might not happen at WrestleMania, but I'd probably do it there so you can supply us with a surprise. But they're probably going to wrestle Backlash as well and, have some rematches, especially if there is shenanigans going down. So Cody is our new WWE champion. Once again, third title victory for the Code Man. So he is now going into WrestleMania to face Orton, and next week the contract signing is taking place. So there is still an outside chance that a very angry Drew McIntyre could, because they've done this before already, right? They've done contract signings where someone shows up and puts their own name on the contract. So don't rule that out. Don't start making all your plans for Cody and Orton until we get on the other side of that contract signing, because if Drew is going to sit back and do nothing, if you think that, you're crazy. So I think McIntyre could very well show up next week, maybe Jacob as well, and both them guys can write their names on the contract. But if that were to happen, and I don't think it's going to at this point, if that were going to happen, then I would have just left McIntyre as the champion. Although that would have been hard for Cody to get in. He would have to write his name on the contract, and then fans would take that as, entitled Cody. Sammy wouldn't be happy about it. We just got to write your fucking name on the contract, so he'd be pissed. So it probably is better for Cody to be champion. But if they were to do a four-way, I would still go Drew. Like if that, at this point, I feel like that scenario is unlikely, but next week on the contract signing, if McIntyre comes in and signs his name and Jacob comes in and signs his name too, and we do get a four-way, I'd put the belt back on fucking McIntyre at WrestleMania. I would, but I think that's not going to happen. So it's moo. It's a cow's opinion. We do need to talk, though, about what else we saw last night on SmackDown, because there was more than just the title match. We also had Randy Orton promo opening up the show where he talked about who he could potentially face at WrestleMania. He doesn't really know yet. And he was interrupted by Trick Williams. You can tell Randy really likes Trick. I think Randy is, if Trick ever becomes a major star, which at this point seems very likely to me, and he wins lots of championships, and he's a decorated WrestleMania main eventer, and he's got a big documentary coming out 10 years in the future talking about his great career and legacy in life, he is going to probably owe a lot to Randy Orton. He's going to look back to these days of working with Randy. He wanted to work with me. He saw my potential. He took me under his wing. We worked a program together, and he really went out of his way, to help me. I feel like that's what's happening here. I think Orton can see the future and the money and the dollar signs in a guy like Trick and say, hey, I want to be a part of his rise. So Trick still ended up eating an RKO, but if Randy Orton comes out of WrestleMania as the champion, you got a big match right there. Trick right out of the gate could get a championship match against Randy Orton on a PLE somewhere. That's assuming that whatever Orton is doing with Cody has completely run its course. So Orton and Trick mixed it up a little bit last night. Carmelo Hayes had a U.S. Open challenge taking on Hio del Dr. Wagner Jr. So we got a AAA call up here. Wagner is the Latino American champion, and I thought it was fun that they used him. And of course, Carmelo beat him, but that was very cool. And when is AAA has got their Reyes to Reyes tournament? I think that's next Saturday. I think that's a week from tonight, and I think Dominic is going to be defending against Vikingo on that, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Also, last night we had a big tag team title celebration for the Irresistible Forces. Is that what they're called? What the fuck are they called? Nia and Lash. So they're out there. These segments are so damn dumb because they always go the same way. But the two women look tremendous out there. They look great, dressed up, got their belts on. They're all ready to celebrate. But their party is crashed by two tag teams, Kiana James and Julia, and Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. So all this comes out when all the women are bickering and makes a number one contenders match right there between Flair and Bliss and Julia and Kiana. So Flair and Bliss get the win. Julia taking another pin here. And Kiana, I can tell, man, WWE, I think, is very high on her. I think I didn't take much notice to her when she got called up, and then she was gone for like another year. And I didn't really see her much in NXT, but I think where I really my eyes kind of like opened a little bit was at the Royal Rumble. She came out with a lot of energy, and I was like, maybe I need to pay more attention to this girl, because I haven't at all. She just doesn't do anything for me. But now that I actually pay attention, when she's on the mic, I listen to her. When she's in the ring, I watch her, and yeah, I can kind of see that she could be a big deal in the company. I think she's got, I think unfortunately she's outshining Julia right now, and it should not be that way, because Julia is great and awesome and way more experienced than Kiana is at this point. But Kiana has developed nicely. She's exactly the type of woman WWE, I think, would want to push in terms of her size, her presence, her ability, her speaking ability and whatnot. So I think Kiana is going to be a big deal in the company. I think, I don't know. I don't want to use Austin Theory as a comparison there, but maybe the female version of Theory, WWE might see in her, and they're kind of starting her slow, making her more of a mouthpiece, talking half of a tag team type of thing, but I think that's going to blossom into much, much more. In terms of what they're ever going to do with Julia, I have no idea. She's still the U.S. champion. I was really hoping for Julia and Io Sky at WrestleMania. I don't know how we're going to get there now, and I don't even know how that match would really be a big deal if Julia's losing all the damn time. So you'd have to somehow find a way for Io to get involved in the U.S. title situation over on SmackDown, but I don't even think that's going to happen, because her and Rhea Ripley already said their goodbyes, and Io is in that big, they did advertise something for Raw. She's in the big IC gauntlet. I think it's a gauntlet, right? IC gauntlet on Monday to determine the new number one contender for AJ's title. So Io, all I care about is Io getting a fucking WrestleMania match. So whether that's against AJ Lee, that would be weird. I don't know how they would do that with babyface and babyface again. I think it might be fun to somehow get Io Sky over to SmackDown, and she can just challenge Julia for the U.S. Title. Would be my hope there. Also, speaking of gauntlets or turmoils, we had a number one contender tag team turmoil match last night that was won by R-Truth and Damian Priest. This was set up backstage. Priest didn't even know that he was teaming up with Truth, but he was cool with the opportunity. And Truth and Priest, of course, they got a big history from the Judgment Day stuff a couple years ago, which was a lot of fun. And they won tag team turmoil, defeating Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, the Wyatts, and Los Garza. We had a AA and South of Heaven combo and double pin to the Garzas for the win, and R-Truth and Damian Priest are now the number one contenders for the MFT's tag team titles. MFTs were out there for this. They did interfere and helped eliminate the Wyatt Six. So I'm ready for some R-Truth and Priest are going to be doing this thing for a bit, but at some point we're going to have to get some R-Truth and Danhausen backstage segments. I would love R-Truth just to be back there like messing around with something, and he finds just like he's in the prop area. What's this? Is this like a torch? And then Danhausen, hello R-Truth, hello Mr. Killings, I'm Danhausen. What is that you have there? It's a torch. Oh, that's nice. I would like to see that. How about you pass me that torch? And you do a little passing of the torch segment between them, and R-Truth basically passes the torch to Danhausen to be the new backstage comedy guy. We did see Danhausen last night. He approached, where do I have it written down? There's a couple of segments ahead, but we just mentioned him, so let's say it. But he talked to Nick Aldis. He's got more demand housings for Aldis, which also includes a Hall of Fame induction this year. It has to be this year. And he also wants Aldis to hook him up with a mentor. But Aldis is like, that's not my job. Find your own mentor. And he goes, but wait a minute. Now that I think about it, I think I have the perfect guy for you. And then they walk 4 feet 4 feet away from where they were standing. And then there's the Miz on the phone. And Aldis tells the Miz that he's going to be mentoring Danhausen. And Miz doesn't really want anything to do with it. He goes, I'm not going to mentor you. And Danhausen goes, yes, you are. So Danhausen and the Miz should have some fun back and forth on TV. Danhausen, very nice bounce back from that not so pleasant debut he had a week ago. And like I said, Danhausen is beloved. Fans were not booing Danhausen last Saturday. I saw so many people just, almost like giddy with excitement over how he was received. They were booing the creative. They weren't booing Danhausen. Saw one guy saying nobody in the United Center knew who he was. Hey, Skippy, everybody in the United Center knew who he was. It wasn't about that. Listen to the ovations he got on SmackDown and Raw this week when he appeared on camera. They popped. They would have popped their balls off if Danhausen would have just debuted like that at the Elimination Chamber. Pull his ass out from under the ring, have him put a curse on someone, or he just pops out of a trash can backstage. Entire United Center would have popped. But they played this up. They acted like it was a big deal, only to have Danhausen come out and dance, and that's it. So it just wasn't worthy of a pay-per-view. It wasn't worthy of a WWE PLE that only has 4 matches on it. That's what the fans were booing, not Danhausen. They don't have a problem with him. It's just a matter of how you're going to use him, and WWE was giving us the impression that they had no idea what to do with this guy. And now on Raw and SmackDown, they're using him exactly like I would expect them to use him, kind of introducing him a little bit backstage. He's in these little comedy segments, and eventually he is going to have to get in the ring, and we'll see how WWE handles that. But Danhausen's next 2 appearances since the Elimination Chamber on Raw and SmackDown have been pretty good. Also last night we had, of course, there you see it on the screen, the big confrontation in the ring between Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. So these two, of course, had their big social media beef this week, and mostly on Monday. This was prior to Monday Night Raw. We saw all of this shit unfold on social media, and then we talked about it on Monday night. And I had my suspicions about whether or not it was a work or not, and I felt like it had to be, because otherwise I think WWE would have stepped in and told them to cool their jets. But, you know, a lot of people were chiming in, like Chelsea and then Piper Niven, who we haven't even seen in a while. So it was starting to feel like the locker room was way more likely to back up Ripley. And we have heard reports that Jade has rubbed people the wrong way. She's got an attitude to her that maybe isn't that beneficial to a locker room environment, you know, somebody like her coming in and whatnot. But we don't really know the full story there. They put the title on Jade. They got a lot invested in Jade, but sounds like Jade has some issues with some of the other ladies in the locker room. And then later on in the week, you know, before the segment last night on SmackDown, more and more reports came out that was suggesting that this actually was a real legit shoot situation that took place with them on social media. And it was, you know, I think Jade got ahead of herself and then, you know, kind of started in with some of the stuff. And then that's where the back and forth happened. And it's also been reported that they don't like each other in real life. And that's fair. You know, you don't have to like all your coworkers. But Rhea Ripley, this is somebody that's being pushed to a Charlotte level, does not seem to have that heat that even Charlotte had. Charlotte was rubbing some people the wrong way. And while Ripley, I'm sure, isn't 100% beloved by every single woman in that locker room, feels like she's got the support. She's a team player. She's a locker room girl. And if the WWE roster had to decide whose side to pick, I think they're going to be backing up Rhea Ripley. And of course, we know how much Triple H loves Rhea Ripley and how much WWE loves her and how decorated they intend on making her. So going into this match with Jade, I think this is Jade's match to lose here, and Ripley's probably going to beat her. But in terms of what they said last night on the mic, we were looking forward to that because of all these reports we were reading all week long. Is there real beef? Is there real heat? Do they not get along? Do they hate each other? Do they want to kick each other's asses? So when they got on the mic and they had the segment last night, they got in each other's faces, and basically they didn't bring up any of the Twitter stuff from earlier on in the week. It was basically just a my body versus your body. You know, Jade's talking about Rhea's, yeah, you got big muscles, but mine are bigger. You got nice muscular legs, but mine are more muscular. And I'm like, okay, can we get a Scott Steiner and Triple H pose off, please? Because let me save both of you women some time. You're both obscenely fucking hot. You know that, right? So I wouldn't worry about who's got the hotter body or the better body. That really shouldn't matter. But Rhea, you know, then drops a line that's kind of interesting that kind of plays into some of that Twitter beef. She says, your body is built for show. Mine is built for fighting, which is a passive-aggressive way of saying, I can work, you can't. So, I mean, she's Lex Luger. You know, basically, Rhea's like, you're Lex, I'm Brett. Basically, is what she told her. And I don't know anything about this, so my friends here in the chat My friends in the black community, please let me know if what O'Shea Jackson is saying is true. But O'Shea Jackson tweeted out last night. Where did I put it? Oh, shit, I lost it. He tweets out this. He says, Jade extended her left hand for a handshake, which is a sign of disrespect in the black community. So, and she did. When Rhea came up to her, Jade did extend the left hand, and Rhea shook it. But that's looking really deep. I've never heard of that, but let me know if that's legit or not. And there was maybe some subtleties there. Maybe Jade doing it with the left hand, Rhea, your body's for show, mine's for fighting. That's about as real as they got there. So we will have to see if this intensifies, because we have another 6 weeks until WrestleMania. You got a lot to do with these two women in that amount of time. So in that amount of time, I'm sure we're going to see probably a contract signing and some sort of a tag team match that's going to put these women on opposite sides. That tends to be the formula for matches like this when you have so much time before the big match at WrestleMania. You can't just do a one-on-one promo 6 straight SmackDowns in a row. Going to have to do more than that. So this was the first segment. I think the next one might be something more physical, followed by a contract signing, followed by a match, followed by one more one-on-one promo right before WrestleMania. Something like that is what I think they will do. But nothing too interesting coming out of Ripley and Jade last night. And in terms of, who's going to win that match at WrestleMania, I'm going Ripley at this point. Ripley over Jade. Last night, also, Johnny Gargano was out in the ring with Candice, and he said he wants to get back to being the best wrestler in the world and offers an open invitation. Open invitation for anybody to come out. And I think we all know who was going to answer that, and that was Big, Bad, and Sexy. Oba Femi comes out and completely murders Johnny Wrestling. And we will talk about Oba and his WrestleMania plans in just a minute. That was pretty much it for SmackDown other than the main event. It should also be noted that last night before SmackDown went live, Jordynne Grace apparently got injured in a match with Alba Fire, and she was seen backstage in a walking boot and even being pushed around a little bit in a wheelchair. Took a little selfie with Chelsea Green. So Grace, despite the injury, seems to be in good spirits, which makes me think it's just maybe a rolled ankle or something that she's just got to be careful on and work through. Nothing that's going to keep her out significant time or surgery or anything like that. She didn't seem too broken up about the injury. So hopefully it's just something she has to gut out and work through, and everything is okay with her. Now, I mentioned Oba Femi a minute ago. We've got some news this week about some of these WrestleMania matches and how many WrestleMania matches are planned. Now, Bodyslam.net reported that there are about 14 matches planned, and possibly even 16. This would be an increase from the past couple of years. I think we've done 6 matches on each show, and I've been very vocal about how I don't think that's enough. You've got 2 nights of WrestleMania. Essentially, you would think that when you have 2 nights, that would allow you to include more talent, have more matches. It really hasn't been like that. WrestleMania last year with the 2 nights having 12 total matches, I think it was. Maybe even 11. Maybe it was 13. I forgot. But it just doesn't feel like enough for a 2-night extravaganza, especially when you're charging fans 25 G's for a fucking ticket. And these are 4 or 5 hour long shows. And 2 of those hours is spent with video packages and entrances and all of this shit. You can pack so much more into these shows if you really wanted to. And the biggest thing that annoys me about WrestleMania going to 2 nights is they still keep that fucking Battle Royal on SmackDown. Why in the hell is that not opening night 1 or opening night 2, or maybe even being on a kickoff show if you really want to? WrestleMania used to have kickoff matches. They don't really anymore. So that's always bugged me, and now the report is that maybe they're going to be a little bit more matches. I think last year I said, I'm like, 7 on each night should be the minimum to me. Nobody's asking you to do 2 back-to-back 6-hour shows or anything, but these shows are going to be at least 4 hours long, and you should try to pack a match or 2 more in there. Back in the day, WWE used to try to involve as many stars as they could in WrestleMania matches, multi-man things, big diva battle royals and shit, just to put as many people on the card as possible. It feels like they had the opposite policy in the last couple of WrestleManias. What percentage of the roster, of the main roster, do you think competed at the last couple of WrestleManias? 30%? 25%? While the other 70 or 75% is sitting in the back doing nothing? You don't want to put throwaway matches on the card or anything like that, but you should include some more matches. And one of the things that I've been mentioning, watching TV, watching Kairi and Asuka, I was skeptical if that was actually going to be a WrestleMania match. Now it sounds like it is, because if it's not for a title, if it's not for a championship, you don't see too many one-on-one women's matches with no belts on the line. So, or at least at WrestleMania anyway, not even in general, but definitely not at WrestleMania. So the fact that some of these matches look like they are going to be happening, I think that's a good thing. And apparently there are reportedly 6 to 7 women's matches planned. You're going to have the 2 world title matches. You're going to have whatever AJ Lee is going to do for the IC. That's 3 matches. Then you're going to have the tag team titles, because I think the Lash and Nia will defend those. Then if you have Kairi and Asuka, that's 5 right there. You don't know if Julia is going to have a match or not. If Julia defends the U.S., then that would be 6. So right now where it all stands, and if you can factor in Io Sky somewhere into that, whether it's for the IC or somewhere else, I feel like Io and Becky Lynch can't not be on WrestleMania, but I'm not convinced either one of those two will be AJ Lee's opponent. Maybe Becky and Io Sky. Maybe they somehow get to Becky and Io Sky. Maybe in the gauntlet, Becky comes out and attacks. Is Becky even in the gauntlet? I forgot who's in that gauntlet next week, if Becky's in it or not. But maybe something happens in that match to set up something between Becky and Io. I don't know. Just trying to think out loud here. Otherwise, I try to get Io over to SmackDown to face Julia. But Io Sky versus AJ Lee feels like a weird match to do because both women are so beloved by the audience. I don't think that would work. So 6 to 7 women's matches at this point does seem possible and likely for WrestleMania, and that's a good thing. Also, Meltzer had some input on the Brock Lesnar plans, and he did say that the plan, of course, it's Dave. Dave sometimes just assumes things in his head and says it. So I feel like this is one thing that he's assuming in his head. He has not been told this, but he believes the plan will be Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. And I feel like that should be the match. Now, I've said over and over and over again that you got to do a match between Brock, Oba, and Gunther. 2 of those 3 dudes need to face each other. And if they do, you got to think, what does the third man out, odd man out do? So if it's Oba and Brock, then you got to probably an opponent for Gunther, maybe in Rey Mysterio. Gunther, of course, removed Dragon Lee's mask last week, which if anybody's mad about that image being shared on social media, yell at WWE. They unmasked him on live worldwide Netflix streaming television where the replay is available for everyone to watch. If you go on their YouTube channel, there's a 3-minute clip of the match that includes the unmasking of Dragon Lee. They unmasked him on Netflix on top of a Slim Jim logo. So if you're one of these people butthurt or upset about the image being shared on social media, you need to direct your hate tweets to WWE. It has nothing to do with fans not knowing the culture or anything like that. WWE unmasked him on camera. It's out there. If people share it, that's the way it was. That's the nature of the beast. It's deliberate. It's not a nipple slip. It wasn't an accident. His mask didn't accidentally get torn off. In that case, I wouldn't want to share the pic. I have the utmost respect for Lucha Libre Wrestling and its culture and how much I hate it. Eric Bischoff taking every damn mask off half the Lucha population in WCW, how angry that made me and what a sacrilege I thought that was, but this is the information age and social media. The minute something happens in the ring on Raw, you immediately have still images and replays of it all over social media that people are posting. So getting mad at Sean Ross Sapp or anybody else for posting a still shot of his face that had black face paint on it, get real problems. And for the love of fucking God, pick your battles. Anybody's anger over the Dragon Lee stuff, there should be one entity and one entity only you should be mad at: WWE. No one else, not a fucking fan on social media, not a journalist, not anybody like that. WWE. They did it deliberately, on purpose, on a Slim Jim logo, on Netflix, with the replay available and clips of the match and that particular highlight all over YouTube and social media. Their YouTube and social media. So yell at them. You absolute dolts. My God. And that shit, people are still talking about that shit. 6 days ago, people are still bitching about that fucking mask because Sean dared to tweet out a fucking picture of it. It's nothing to do with not respecting culture. Not because we're a bunch of cultureless fucking honkies. That's not what's happening. You know, it's like, what the fuck? I just don't get it. Hey, I don't like it when luchas are unmasked either, you know, but when it's deliberate and it happens, then it's out. It's out there. It's out there to stay. The internet is forever, you know. None of that matters. Doesn't matter if it gets shared or if somebody posts a screen cap. It's out. It's already out there. You know, like I feel like sometimes if there's nothing in a given day to be pissed about, fans just create something. And that was one of the most ridiculous shitstorm waste of time I've ever seen is fans getting mad about that. I'm like, yell at WWE. They're the assholes that did it. Like, Jesus Christ, stop getting all up your ass about people not respecting culture. They did it. They didn't respect your culture. So shut up. My God. Also, we have some news that WWE's next Saturday night's main event looks to be landing on the anniversary of Owen Hart's death, May 23rd, and that will be the day before Double or Nothing. So a big weekend there. I better make my plans to be available all weekend long for that, so I can be here for Saturday night's main event and Double or Nothing. Later on in May, I'll go ahead and talk to work right now about making sure I'm off for that. Okay, we have to also get into some wrestling news because we had some big wrestling news break this week as it relates to what's going on behind the scenes in WWE. Road Dogg, Brian James, has quit the WWE. This happened, Thursday? Was it yesterday or Thursday? I think it was Thursday. So this all went down on Thursday. Bodyslam.net broke the news first. Fightful confirmed it, and PW Insider had a follow-up. Sounds like Road Dogg quit in person earlier on in the day. So he tendered his resignation in person. Dave Meltzer seems to think that he may have quit after receiving his annual performance review, which he may not have been happy about. Also, there is a lot of word backstage that this was brewing. Apparently, he got an appearance, a side appearance, maybe a convention or something appearance approved, and then it was rescinded. And then when he was asked about it, he said something like, oh, it's not going to matter in a little while anyway. So I think this was already kind of brewing and may have been brewing as far back as WWE Unreal because Road Dogg was not portrayed well in that at all. The thing with Chelsea Green and the title, you know, the way he was kind of made to look stupid there with Triple H. And it kind of made the whole creative team, feel a little bit inept, to be honest, not just Road Dogg. But apparently this just came down to unhappiness. Things are changing in the company as well. Road Dogg was not one of the more beloved creative figures, fans who follow that type of thing, who keep track of who's in charge, who's head writer, and who's kind of driving the creative shit behind the scenes. We have not heard a lot of positive things about Road Dogg and his philosophies. And when he was lead writer of Smackdown, fans were banging their heads against the wall a lot. And so this is probably best creatively for WWE. I feel bad that Road Dogg, it kind of ended this way for him. Triple H might have been in a situation where he didn't really want to fire the guy, but maybe put out, if Triple H had anything to do with this performance review, maybe he just said, hey, write a review that might make him quit. I don't know. We don't know what's going down there. But Road Dogg, he's also taken some time off recently, right? Year or two ago, I think he took a little bit of time off to kind of collect himself and regroup a little bit. And now, with his age and everything he's done in his career, and hopefully I would assume he's probably pretty financially stable, working a job that can be this stressful and this taxing on you probably isn't that good when you get up to a certain age. It's not good for your health or your well-being or your stress level or anything like that. And so Road Dogg has chosen to quit. He is gone from WWE. We'll have to see if he wants to bounce back in the wrestling business somewhere. I don't think AEW needs to hire him as a creative, a creative writer or anything like that. Although I suppose it could be technically possible, theoretically possible, to get an Edge and Christian versus New Age Outlaws match in AEW. if Road Dogg wanted to bounce over there, resurrect the team with Billy, and they go up against Edge and Christian. No, let's not do that. But we'll see where Road Dogg goes in the future. I wish him well. I was never a big fan of Road Dogg in terms of, him being on the creative team. But he's just I probably don't really see eye to eye with him on things like politically and whatnot either. But he always seems like a nice man, somebody who just really loved his friendship with R-Truth. And, that was my favorite part of WWE Unreal, was just to see the closeness between those two guys. And, and how happy he was the Truth got brought in. And it is funny how now you turn around and Road Dogg's gone and Truth is there. So wrestling business, that's the way it is. It's a wild ride. So all the best to Road Dogg. We may learn more in the upcoming days and weeks in terms of what led to this, but it seems like a pretty simple situation, pretty simple story. Just became unhappy, didn't like his performance review, probably didn't like the way he was portrayed on WWE Unreal, and maybe there's a lot of other writers there too, that maybe personality-wise he clashes with, or whatever it may be. He just wanted out, and Road Dogg is gone, and we wish him the best. Now, speaking of WWE writer shakeups and whatnot, there is another one. Alex Williams, who has been on the writing team for a while, she updated her LinkedIn page this week to reveal that she is the new vice president and lead writer for WWE Raw. So she's basically going to be heading things up on Raw. She's been on the creative team for a while, but we don't really know much about her other than that. But whatever work she's doing is solid enough that they want to maybe promote her to the lead writer. And that's something I've been saying for a while. I'm like, get some women in there, get some younger people, get some black folks in there, get a variety of ages and genders and race in there, because, all of those, you don't want to get 6 of the same exact minds on the same creative team because they don't think the same way, so just get a little bit of a variety, people who can give input from different perspectives and whatnot and help drive creative stories in the right direction. So don't know anything about Miss Williams personally, but if she's good enough for them to promote to vice president, lead writer of WWE Raw, she's got to be doing something right. And unfortunately, when you watch television, you don't know which ideas belong to which writers. Sometimes you hear that stuff. Sometimes when there's a big segment or a big angle or a big program, you hear that one writer is, maybe assigned to it more than others. But beyond that, we don't really know what ideas she had that would be considered good that would lead to a promotion. But either way, congrats to Alex Williams. Happy for her, having somebody young, having a woman on the writing team, provided she knows about wrestling and knows these characters and shit like that. I hope she doesn't have anything to do with the Brock Lesnar Open Challenge, because I think that's a really stupid idea, and especially if they wait too long. I think they already did damage to their locker room by not having guys trample one another to get out there to step up to Brock on Monday, and then Brock listed his dates. And if they're trying to tell us that they're going to wait until the last week to WrestleMania to find his opponent, that's just going to bury your locker room. I know fans throw around the word bury all the time, but they would bury the locker room if every one of them back there is too chicken shit to walk out there and confront Brock, especially when that locker room contains Gunther and maybe an Obafemi. And Brock is out there calling somebody out. Nobody's coming. Come on. March 16th, it better happen. So, Alex, if you're in charge of that storyline, somebody better, Oba or Gunther, needs to come out and confront Brock the next time Brock is on Raw. If Brock comes in and out of that ring on the next time he's there without a challenger, that is going to be stupid. So whoever's in charge of that, make sure you do it right. But Raw now has a head writer. Congrats to the lovely Alex Williams. Okay, here's something else we got to talk about. My God, we got to talk about this. We didn't talk about the Paramount and Warner Brothers deal last week because the news had just broke. And it was just like, Jesus Christ, there's so much to this that I didn't really feel like I was going to be able to prepare in time for this to talk about it last week. But now that it's a week old, I feel like we better bring this up. So, of course, the only reason we're talking about this is because we want to know how it's going to affect pro wrestling, specifically AEW, which is currently on TBS and TNT, which are TV stations owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. We've known for a while that Warner Brothers was looking for a sale, was looking to sell or merge, and Netflix emerged as the top bidder, and it looked like it was going to be a done deal. They were set to be acquired by Netflix until Paramount raised their offer to, I think it was $31 per share. Now, Paramount has been in play here the whole time, but it had looked like Netflix had outbid them. So Netflix essentially now walks away from the deal, and because of that, they collect like a $3 billion breakup fee, which is the same deal that Paramount will get if this deal fails to go through, which it might not go through. It's going to be a long time before all this is finalized. So if it doesn't go through, I think Paramount gets like $7 billion in their breakup fee. So, it's that's just an obscene amount of money here. I mean, and plus, what was paid for this merger, we're in the hundreds of billions of dollars here, and it's just insane. So Netflix now walks away. Paramount has now moved in, and this really sucks. It wasn't going to be good either way, but it's even worse now with Paramount. Now, granted, it still needs to pass regulatory approval. Hopefully it won't, because this is not good. Now you're combining. You've got two movie studios here that are combining, which Netflix, I don't think, had a movie studio. So if they would have merged with WBD, you wouldn't have had the job loss you're going to have here. Now you've got two legacy studios, Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount, merging together, which means they got a lot of people in both companies doing the same job. And that's going to result in layoffs, which sucks. Far more layoffs with this merger than there would have been with the Netflix one. And also, the entire reason that this is happening is because the Ellis family desperately wants to own CNN. That's the only reason they launched this hostile takeover to begin with, is because they want to own and control the news. And all that fake news bullshit that everybody complained about the liberals controlling the media, like, what the fuck do you think is happening right now? Where you're going to have somebody, like the Ellison family that are going to own so much. Two big Hollywood studios, and now they're going to own CNN, whose ratings have been tanking forever, but they are desperate to own CNN so they can just pollute the airwaves with more of that Fox News bullshit, and they really want to get this deal done so they can influence elections. That's the whole point. Now, there's no way they're going to have this deal done in time for the midterms, which is coming up, so that's out. I don't even think this thing is going to be done to really influence the presidential election in 2 years, because I think it's going to take a year for all of this to even finalize, get approved, then the transition, and then if you want to turn CNN into another form of a Fox News station, that's not going to happen overnight either. And by the time all of this happens, it could be 2 years from now. So nothing about this deal is going to affect anything in the short term. Plus, there is also the chance this does not get approval. I feel like it will with Trump in charge, but it shouldn't. The idea of these big mergers and these super companies forming, I'm adamantly against, and it creates a lot of problems, and it's going to be problematic for the future. And the more and more the stuff like this still happens, the more and more stuff like this happens, the worse it's going to get. So let's hope that there is a chance that this falls through. There's not a lot of people jumping for joy over this. Wall Street, I think, is pretty happy. Hollywood is not. They see a lot of big problems with this, and especially with the layoffs and whatnot. But in terms of how it affects us, wrestling, because AEW, as we know, currently has a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery to supply content to TNT and TBS. Those deals don't run up, I believe, for another 2 years. I think maybe next year, and they had an option. I think there's an option year to add, so I think it's going to be 2028 by the time AEW needs a rights fee renewal. And when that happens, I think it's all just going to depend on what the landscape looks like. It depends on what Paramount intends to do. They're already dealing with a shit ton of debt, and if they're looking to cut billions of dollars in spending, that could definitely be problematic for AEW's next TV rights deal. But it's also very possible they see value in AEW. They look at how much money WWE's getting for their media rights deals, and then they look at how much AEW is receiving for theirs, which I think the last deal was $180,000, something like that, right? compared to the billions that WWE is getting, that's a bargain. That's a steal. If they see value in pro wrestling or want to have want to control or maintain a foothold on TBS and TNT, something that they have had there for decades on those stations, and they want to maintain that, and they see value and money to be made in pro wrestling, then AEW will stick around. So a lot of people are already, predicting and booking the demise of AEW. I'm telling you what. I'm telling you fans something right now. There is nothing that a cashier at fucking Kroger knows about the future of this situation. So you got a lot of people, of course, who hate AEW, who are kind of celebrating, think that this is going to result in bad news. That is not a guarantee. It could be bad news for AEW, but you know what that means? They simply just move to another network. This is not an AEW killer. Even if the new regime and whoever they put in charge of TNT and TBS, if these people have no interest in pro wrestling at all and want nothing to do with it, Tony Khan will just go somewhere else. He has got so many contacts. This is a guy that's going to own the Jacksonville Jaguars one day. He's got lots of connections, lots of money. AEW will not struggle to find a television home the way TNA did. But you don't really want to leave at all if you don't have to. If you've got networks that you've already established yourselves on and they care about you, they advertise you, and you have a good relationship with them, and fans are used to seeing you there, that's where you would like to stay. So hopefully when this is all said and done, AEW will remain on these networks, but we're not going to know any of that until this merger is approved, is completed, and they do all their layoffs, and they all their entities are set up the way they want them. By the time that is all said and done, who knows? What the landscape is going to look like. Now, when AEW's media rights deal comes up in a couple of years, they're going to want to increase from that $185 million because they increased it from their previous. They got a huge, huge raise in this deal. So you would expect Tony Khan's going to expect the same type of level of increase there. And if he does not get it, he might look for another home. So one thing that's not going to happen is this is all going to be about negotiations. It's not all going to be about money. TNA or AEW will have a home on television somewhere. They will find a home. The question is how much money they can get. How much money they can get to keep their business thriving. In terms of finding a home, they're not going to struggle with that because in terms of the ratings that they do, those ratings are numbers that cable stations would want. Just because it's not WWE doesn't mean it's not good. And you can get that wrestling product at a far bigger bargain than you get any WWE programming. And then if AEW, takes off, or they get some hot angle, or they do something that really explodes them out and takes a little bit of attention away from WWE, then you've just made yourself some more money. So there's no sky is falling here yet, but we don't really know. I mean, this could be bad for AEW. It could be good for AEW. Tony Khan seems to think it's good, but we won't know. Nobody will really know that but I think Tony Khan would have a better idea than anybody else. And if Tony Khan is concerned, you would hope that he's got a plan B in play as well, because Paramount does have a relationship with UFC, with TKO, because UFC airs on Paramount, right? But that's UFC, that's not WWE. I think maybe the merger with Netflix would have caused more of a problem there in terms of what's the fucking phrase I'm looking for here? But in terms of their relationship with WWE and Netflix, that causing problems if they would have merged with WWBD, I don't think that the Paramount relationship with UFC would really matter, in terms of conflicting interest is what I was trying to say there. I don't really think that would matter. So the story is big. The story sucks. I'm much more angry about the how this is going to affect television media than I am about wrestling. I'm not too worried about AEW. I know you got a whole army of drooling fuckboys out there that, just want AEW to die because they're lonely, bored little shut-ins who women wouldn't touch with a 10-foot fucking pole. But I don't care about that. I'm not worried about AEW. AEW's going to be fine. They're not going anywhere. If you're one of those little boys that think that one day AEW is going to cease to exist, you're wrong. They'll probably outlive your ass. But I'm more concerned about these fucking Ellisons and them this hostile takeover and them trying to get CNN to influence elections. That's the only reason they're doing it. And it's so fucking obvious and it's so pathetic. And my God, They cry and they whine and they spit and they moan about fake news and all this shit in the liberal media, and they're literally trying to control everything. They're trying to brainwash people. You already got a whole army of brainwashed people who watch Fox News all fucking day. If you're glued to the Fox News 24/7, you're going to have some shitty opinions. you're going to develop some very, very, very shitty, horrible, and evil opinions if you watch that shit all fucking day. And a lot of just regular everyday Americans, they can't think for themselves. They have to be told what to think and what to believe. And now you're going to have yet another news organization doing that, polluting the minds of the young, stupid, old, and gullible. Man, oh man, our country is a mess. More political fun. So WWE had to sign Zoe Hines, who is RFK Jr.'s niece. She is the niece of Cheryl Hines. And apparently she had already had a tryout with WWE that didn't go very well, but WWE basically got pressured into hiring her. And it was even revealed that Linda McMahon had a lot to do with it. Linda McMahon and RFK Jr. worked together. Linda made some calls and got this girl hired in WWE. Now, if she's completely in line with her uncle's, politics and all that, then I don't want anything to do with this bitch. But, if she's taking advantage of the opportunity of her phlegm-talking uncle to get her a job in WWE, great, good for her. I'm rooting for her. But we heard that she had signed, and apparently there's a report out that WWE is now worried about feeling pressure to make her a star. Don't worry about that. RFK Jr. is going to be gone. You don't just sign with WWE in a developmental deal and then main event WrestleMania the next year. It's going to take her a couple of years to even get going. I bet you it's a year or more before she even shows her face on NXT. So we're talking a long way out here. By the time they are forced to make her a star, Linda McMahon will not be a cabinet member anymore, and RFK Jr. hopefully will die of a raw milk overdose. There's no way that they should feel pressure by this administration to push this girl. If she's good and talented, she kicks ass, push her to the fucking moon for all I care. But I kind of laughed at the story like, oh, WWE's worried they have to make her a star. No, you don't. This administration is not going to be here forever. They got 2 years or less left. And RFK is going to be gone. Linda's going to be gone. None of these fucking people are going to be around. And it's not going to matter if this girl is a star or not. But apparently she got a deal basically because of who she was. Great. We'd love to hear that. Apparently, Tom Brady also could be finding his way into the WWE. There has been word that WWE may want to work with him in some capacity, not to get in the ring and wrestle, but maybe to make some appearances, and have even been working on some marketing and promotional material for him, including nicknames. One of those nicknames is T-Bone. You love that T-Bone. Problem is, Tom Brady can't be T-Bone because Neil Watson's from accounting is already T-Bone. So you can't be T-Bone. I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know what he's going to do there. This all stemmed from, what was he on, Logan Paul's podcast, and he called WWE cute. I do not give a gluten-free fuck what Tom Brady thinks about anything, much less professional wrestling. So I didn't even know he made that comment. Fans yelled at him for calling WWE cute. Let him. He's cute. He's cute. Look at his little sweet cheeks, little ass there. With a little dimpled chin. Fuck him. I don't give a shit what Tom Brady thinks about WWE, and I don't need him here. I don't need him in wrestling. I don't need him around wrestling. I do not care about Tom Brady at all or what he thinks of wrestling or WWE or whatever. Such a weird story. But, of course, he is the most successful quarterback in NFL history. So if WWE did do some work with him in some way, I'm sure they would welcome that opportunity and the publicity that would bring to them. But in terms of Brady and him doing something in WWE one day, maybe him and Logan Paul either team up, or maybe Tom Brady is in the corner of Logan Paul during a match. I'd be into that, I guess. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Next story. This is a sad one. Now, it should be noted here that every report that I read today about this has not been confirmed. No confirmation from Conan or people close to Conan. But it was reported originally from a Twitter account named by the name of El Plancitas, who tweeted out this, and I quote, "I can confirm that Carlos Santiago Espada, 62 years old, had a leg amputated. For some time now, the AAA star has been dealing with health problems that have left him in a delicate state in San Diego." So Conan apparently is here. I got a hospital right down the road from me. Might be right down the road here. And dealing with health problems, and reportedly had one of his legs amputated. Now, Conan also had a kidney transplant back in 2007 and has battled some other health problems too, and even struggled with COVID when he got it a few years back. So I really hope this is not true, but I would think that if Conan was fine and everything was good with him, he'd be saying, "Hey, I'm all fine. I got both my legs," and post a video of him jumping up and down. So this sounds like it's probably legit. A lot of wrestling sites are reporting it, but nobody's really gotten direct confirmation from his family yet, unless it's happened between when we started doing this podcast here. But this is a real shame. That really sucks. Sorry for Conan. Sorry to hear that. All the best to him now, because this sounds very, very serious, especially if he's not out of the woods yet. He's still got other problems. Health might still very much be in danger, very critical, and could maybe lose another body part as well. So all the best to Conan, and everything going on with him. He was a pretty big star there in WCW. I saw people talking about his catchphrases today on social media about his bowdy and all that whole spiel that he did. And I forgot who it was, but I was reading a couple tweets of people talking about, being in high school during the Attitude Era and how everybody was just WWE, Austin, Rock, DX, Suck It, Middle Fingers, Rudy Poo, Candy Asses. Nobody was doing any WCW catchphrases except for Conan. His whole entire spiel that he'd go through apparently is the only one that kids in high school would say in the hallways and whatnot. And I just find that so fascinating too. I graduated high school in 1995, right before King of the Ring 1995, which was arguably one of the worst pay-per-views ever. And I could not, and you had to be a closet wrestling fan. I didn't hang around the lunch table talking wrestling with people. I didn't even hang out at the lunch table. I left school and went and got skip school with my friends, but we weren't like out back, eating Burger King out by the soccer field, talking about wrestling and shit. You had to be a closet fan. Nobody knew I was a wrestling fan. I couldn't talk about Doink with my friends in high school. You just can't. You can't talk about fucking Men on a Mission and Doink and Dink, when I'm a senior in high school. Get the fuck out of here. But I wish I would have been in high school in 1998. And to see what that would have been like. I went to school in the Carolinas, so I know all them little fuckers would have been wearing wrestling shirts left and right. And it would have been wild to me. Like so many of you got to go to school when wrestling was popular, and I was in school when wrestling was not popular. But if I would have just been 5 years younger, I would have been in high school for basically all the Attitude Era and most all of the Monday Night Wars, And I missed it all. So I'm always fascinated when people talk about their high school experiences in pro wrestling, because pro wrestling was just not talked about in my school at all because it sucked. It sucked in 95. It was ass. Anyway, all the best to Conan. Absolutely heartbreaking story, and hopefully he will be all right. I've talked to Conan a few times. We've exchanged DMs. He's mentioned me on his podcast before. He's asked me if I've listened to his podcast before. If anybody's ever shared a DM with Conan, he's going to ask you if you've listened to his podcast. And I told him I would. Problem is, Disco Inferno's a douchebag, and I don't want anything to do with him. So get better friends, and I'll start listening. But Disco can suck a butt. But all the best to Conan. Okay. Thank you for that tweet, Ryan. Got a little update on Kevin Owens. Sounds like he might be heading back around summertime to WWE. I hope so. I was kind of hoping he'd come out of the box at Elimination Chamber, but he didn't. All right, let's talk about another big Mercedes Moné title loss. Last night, Mercedes defended her CMLL Women's World Championship at La Noche de la Amazonas, which, unless my Spanish fails me here, I believe means the Night of the Amazons. I live in San Diego. I should know a little bit of Spanish, right? So she defended her title last night and lost to Persephone. So this is huge. She drops another belt. Huge win for Persephone. She was even joined by, I guess, the entire women's locker room to take a big photo after the victory. So that's a big deal. Now this, if you add these all up now, you've got Mercedes. And I have to stand a little bit corrected here because when Mercedes had all of those titles, I was pretty adamant that, yes, she's going to lose the TBS title. We know that. But she's not going to go on like a 12-match losing tour to all of these different places and drop the title. That's just not going to happen. And it kind of is happening, although it's only half happening. Now, one of the reasons I said that wasn't going to happen is because Tony Khan isn't going to take one of his top stars and send her out to a bunch of promotions to lose to a bunch of people nobody's ever heard of. But that's not happening. Everybody that she's lost to works in AEW. So she dropped the Ring of Honor title to Red Velvet. She dropped the Rev Pro to Alex Windsor. Of course, she dropped the TBS to Willow. And now she dropped the CMLL women's title to Persephone. But as we know, Persephone has worked in AEW a little bit, hasn't she? So there's a connection there. But I will say I am surprised. I didn't know if she was going to lose all of these. Now, these are all the bigger ones. Ring of Honor, Rev Pro, TBS, and CMLL are all pretty big championships, correct? Based on the rest of the championships she's holding, I'm not sure if those are really that big. So I don't know if she's going to go in and drop the belt to everyone still. And I don't even know, help me out because I haven't been keeping track, how many belts does she have left? Is she still carrying around 5 belts or is she running out of belts? But she eventually is going to run out of belts and then she's going to probably set the AEW women's title in her sights and go after that and probably win it. So, but first she's got to finish up this whole belt collector story, which might result in her dropping a couple of more titles. But it's kind of cool that Red Velvet and Alex and now Persephone, Willow was kind of already established, but the other three, getting those big wins over Mercedes, that's good. So I kind of stand half corrected. I was telling fans, lecturing fans, do not think that she's going to go around, drop 12 titles in a row. That ain't happening, but it's kind of happening. So she might. We'll have to see. So congrats to Persephone on winning the CMLL Women's Championship last night. Let's talk real quick. Vengeance, NXT Vengeance goes live now. It is going live right this very second. We've got Joe Hendry and Ricky Saints for the NXT title tonight. We've got Izzy Dame versus Tatum Paxley for the North American title. Lola Vice versus Kaylani Jordan in an NXT Underground match. And we also have Jada Parker versus Blake Monroe in a street fight. Those are the big matches on Vengeance tonight. And we also have a pretty solid-looking Collision for tonight as well. But before we get into Collision, I do want to mention a couple of things about this past week's AEW Dynamite. An okay show. Last 2 shows, not as good as the previous 2 shows. But we are, on the build here to Revolution. And we did get another match added for Revolution as well. On Dynamite. But just to run through some of these results real quick, MJF opened up the show with a title defense defeating Kevin Knight. So that was kind of fun. And MJF and Hangman would be going at it pretty much all night here. We had a big debut on Wednesday night. We had Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin defeat Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. After the match, David Finlay showed up and debuted with the Shillelagh to take out OC and Darby and basically had a War Dogs reunion there in AEW. And Finlay has officially signed with AEW. I think he got the graphic and everything. The only thing I would have done differently here maybe would have been having Finlay help Kidd and Connors win instead of coming out after they lost. A little weird. But anyway, welcome to AEW. Dave Finlay, there's been talk of him going to AEW and WWE for a long time now. I think based on the landscape, AEW is probably the best place for him specifically. So I think I'm glad that he showed up there. Brawling Birds were in action against, the Inspiration. This is the Inspiration's first match on Dynamite, I believe, right? They were pretty hilarious. They got their asses kicked. I wouldn't call it a squash, but it was pretty one-sided there. Brawling Birds taking down the hilarious Inspiration. And in another squash, Hangman Page didn't even take his jacket off to beat Marty Snow. And after the match, he called out MJF. But he's attacked by the Callis family. and then had his trios title co-holders, Jet Speed, had to come out and make the save for him, and that would set up a trios main event championship match for later on. Which we would see a title change. Also, we had Moxley defeating Hechicero, yet another stare down after the match with Konosuke Takeshita. Looking forward to that one at Revolution, that's for sure. And we did get another match added to Revolution. We had a segment in the ring where Brody King is calling out Swerve Strickland. Nana comes out instead. Swerve attacks Brody King from behind, wraps the chain around his throat, and hangs him over the top rope like Swerve likes to do, and then talks shit to him on the mic and basically accepts his challenge for Revolution, and that match is now official, Swerve and Brody. That match should be fun. I think Swerve is going to get the win there for sure, because I think that he's got to be the number one contender after Revolution, I would think. At least I hope, because I think Swerve, in terms of the entire roster landscape in AEW right now, if I'm trying to look at one wrestler there that I like more than anybody else, I think it's going to have to be Swerve at this point. Big fan of his work, and match with Brody at Revolution should be good. We had Tekla defending her AEW women's title on Wednesday night. So 2 world championship matches on Wednesday. That's pretty cool. She defeated Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa, I'm happy to see back, but wasn't really. I feel like Tekla is the new Thunder Rosa. Rosa's feel like she's lost a step, physically in there a little bit from what I could tell. But I still like Thunder Rosa. She's awesome. So hopefully she can kind of get back on track. But this is a really good opponent for Tekla, I think, and a good victory and feather in the cap type of thing. Thunder Rosa being a former AEW women's champion, and when she was the women's champion, she was doing a good job, having some good matches. Tekla, I think, is tremendous. Really liking her. Didn't know much about her until she got to AEW, but she's quickly, showing us, that Homegirl is a pro, and I've been enjoying her work and happy that she retained over Thunder Rosa. And of course, she's got to put the belt on the line at Revolution against Statlander, and she may not survive that. We will have to see. We had a Tommaso Ciampa interview. He was interviewed by Renee Paquette and interrupted by some old friends from NXT. The Revival, FTR, shows up and basically offers Ciampa a spot in their takeover group, but he basically says, nah, he's cool. He doesn't want anything to do with them, and so you can tell that's going to lead to something. And in the main event of Dynamite, it was the Speedball Rodeo. Jet Speed and Hangman. They were taking on Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher, and Okada, and the Callis family, with help from MJF, who came out and took out Hangman Page, defeat Speedball Rodeo. We had a Rainmaker from Okada and a pile driver from Davis to Kevin Knight for the win, and we have got brand new trios champions, the Callis family, and this now makes a double champion for Kyle Fletcher, right? So he's now a double champion. He's very happy about that. And we had 3 title matches and 1 title change on Wednesday night. So, okay show, not great. I feel like AEW slipped a little bit after like what was 2 really good shows back-to-back a couple of weeks ago. This coming Wednesday will be the go home, so they better be prepared to bring it. They better be prepared to bring it next Wednesday, because that's going to be a very important show to set up your final push for your pay-per-view in LA, which there's still a 10% chance I might go to, but probably not. We're probably just going to be here watching the show together. Here's what we have. I'm looking at AEW's social media right now because I did not write down the Collision card for tonight, but that's about to start. Looks like we've got Tommaso Ciampa versus Daniel Garcia. That'll be good. We've got another one of these money matches. We got a $200,000 4-way tag. The Outrunners, Private Party, LFI, and the Swirl. Who the fuck are the Swirl? Oh, that's Blake Christian and what's his face? Lee Johnson? Is that who the Swirl is? Is that Lee Johnson? I'm just looking at their faces. Lee Johnson and yes, Blake Christian. Okay, so that's another match. We also have Swerve and Gravity. Swerve is taking on Gravity tonight. Gravity's not Pac, is it? And we also have, looks like we got Claudio I don't think this is a championship match. No, it's Claudio versus Konosuke Takeshita. That should be good. Claudio is the CMLL World Heavyweight Champion, and Takeshita is the New Japan TV Champion. So that looks like what's on tap. Oh, no, here's another one. FTR versus the Rascals. AEW tag team titles on the line. Rascals and FTR. That show goes live in a little bit less than an hour. And I believe, like I said, Vengeance Day for NXT is going live right now. So we are a little bit head-to-head with that. But luckily, I have reached the end of my notes, and I can now see what you guys are having to say in the chat, because we got about 15, 20 minutes left that I can do this, which is nice, because I often run out of time on Saturdays because I have to run off to work. But I'm just going to go in for a few hours, then I'm off 3 more days. So we'll be back here tomorrow for, don't forget, WrestleMania 26, and we should be here Monday night for either a Raw watch-along or a review. Haven't decided yet. All right, first thing I want to do is scroll up and just, I don't think there's many supers. Oh, there's a few. There's a few super chats to knock out. I'll start with this one from Ryan earlier on. Thank you for the $2, bro. Drew is leaving Postmania to film a movie. Yes, he is going to go back to doing the Highlander stuff. I meant to mention that earlier. But I still don't think that would be a reason to take the belt off of him here, because they should have known about this Highlander shit before they put the belt onto him to begin with. So I don't think the Drew leaving to, is it the Highlander? Maybe it's not Highlander. What the fuck is the movie he's doing? Whatever he's doing, I don't think that's why they took the belt off of him. I just think he's going to do that movie. So after WrestleMania, he will be gone a little bit. Maybe he'll come back refreshed, but I feel like he's come back born again a couple of times, and only for it not to work out for him. It's a shame, though, what happened to him. 10 more from Ryan. Also, this is the same spot they were in at WrestlePalooza when that report that Cody and Drew were saying that Orton should accidentally cost Cody the belt way back then. Yeah, even back then we were kind of talking about that, but WWE just hasn't gone with it until now. Yeah, that's right. Yo, shout out to Just Alex is hanging. Oh, Homeland, full Homelander. Oh, no, that's the other. Oh, no, that's the other guy. Cody's Homelander. Why did I think Drew was Highlander? There's too many Landers. I don't know who's Landers. Anyway, shout out to Just Alex. Haven't talked to you in a while, bro. Good to see you in here. Hope all is well over in YouTube, over in your YouTube section of the world there. I can't believe it's so funny. This world superior fuck has been chiming in my shit for like years. Never has anything constructive to say. Sounds like a little prick. I'm going to block you forever because I don't like you and I don't ever want you in here. There we go. I'm just going to hide you. Say goodbye to World Superior until the little prick creates another account. We'll just block that one too. Let's see. What else we got? We have 10 from Garrett Osborne. Looking forward to the AEW Revolution review next Sunday. I'll be watching the 35th anniversary screening of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. That's the one featuring Kevin Nash. You know how I was talking about earlier about, wishing I was a little bit younger so I could be in school during the Monday Night Wars and all that shit? I wish I was younger to enjoy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Too old. By the time those toys came around, I was done playing with toys. So I didn't really care. I didn't watch the show on TV. I mean, I knew all the turtles. They're Michelangelo and they like pizza, right? And all that shit. But I saw a few clips of the movies, just didn't give a shit about them. I never saw any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Never saw one. Never saw Secret of the Shredder or whatever the fuck. Never saw any of them. Also, never played the games. When I went to arcades, the arcade game was really, really popular, but when they ported it to the NES, I never bought the game. I never got the Turtles game. Never played Turtles in Time or any of that shit. I'm just not a turtle guy. So when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were super, super popular, I was pretty much moved on to just past that stuff. I was still watching wrestling, but I was way done with cartoons and toys and all that shit. And that's all because I'm an old fuck. I was born in the goddamn mid-70s. So like all this shit was just too old. So I feel like 3 to 5 years younger would have been the perfect age. I would relate so much more to some of you if I was just like that much younger. Ugh, I missed out. Sir, Mr. Adam, the only difference is that Charlotte and Cody are still boring. At least Roman figured it out. No, I disagree. Charlotte could be boring. I don't think Cody's boring. You know, Cody, you can think people can get stale and whatnot, but there is a large portion of the audience that doesn't find Cody boring at all. I think people who saw him win last night are mad and they're letting their emotions lash out, because this is what happens. Whenever this happens, now all of a sudden they're boring. All of a sudden they can't really wrestle. All of a sudden their promos aren't good. It's just tear down, tear down, tear down, tear down. It's so predictable. It's so one-dimensional. It's so repetitive. And it happens with every single fucking wrestler that gets like this. Once you get a babyface winning what the fans perceive as too many titles, all of those things, all those dominoes start falling right in a line. Predictable as gravity. They've always been boring. I never liked him. He's not good in the ring. He's not a really good promo. Going against everything that you previously thought. But now that they're winning too much, all of a sudden they can't work. You know? It's like, just be aware of how repetitive these things sound. And when you say something like that, I'm not pointing at you, 1977, because I love 1977. That was the year I was born. I have a feeling me and Mr. Adam are the same age. But just be aware of that when things like this are said, they've already been said a trillion times about everybody else in the business that wins a title, one too many titles for the fans to be able to stomach. Then all of these things they all just come right back. All these same complaints, these same arguments, these same beliefs that they're boring and whatnot. No, you're just mad. It's not that they're boring. You're just mad. Sometimes it applies. The Charlotte stuff. Fans got sick of her, you know, but a lot of that hate was undeserved. Some of it was deserved. A lot of it wasn't. Same thing with Cena. Fans were right in some of their critiques, but they were so angry and psychotic about it that you can't take them seriously. So I think that fans just need to to control your emotions better. If there's one message I can deliver, if there's any influence I have, or I can use my experience and my age to give advice to fans, the biggest one, number one, is pick your battles. Don't fly off the rails over absolutely fucking nothing. And then if somebody wins that you don't like them to, don't go on an emotionally driven tirade where you're just clearly showing us that you don't have control of the thoughts in your head. You are so angry and mad that you're splurting them out in every direction, all over social media, because you can't control things. You're not in control of your own emotions and your control of your own thoughts. You know, you just don't have control over it. I don't know if it's therapy or medication or what the fuck these people need, but they need something, because it's the same predictable behavior every time. And I complain about it in the same way. Every year up here, fans get butthurt about somebody. I'm like, God, this again? You know, like, just come on. Come on. Just remove the stick from your ass. It's wrestling. It ain't that serious. There's no reason to have a stick lodged up there. It's a waste of time. Better things to do on a beautiful Saturday afternoon than be mad at wrestling. My God. Anyway, Zane G, appreciate the 5. With Heyman dealing with the Rollins chair shot, does it undermine the doing promos for Brock Lesnar doing his open challenge segments? That is weird. And I even mentioned on Monday night, I was wondering, I'm like, does Seth come out and confront Brock? Now, it was reported when I was talking about the Mania matches stuff and what, you know, Meltzer says that they have planned for Brock and his Obafemi and whatnot. You know, Seth Rollins is the same thing. I mean, at this point, Rollins, I think they want to have face Braun Breaker, but if it's not Braun Breaker, it's just going to be Logan Paul. Now, if Braun Breaker is healthy enough for Seth Rollins, then there's been talk of Logan Paul and Austin Theory maybe challenging the Usos for the tag titles. We could see that happen. But with Seth's match, he could come out and attack Brock. But yeah, with him being out there with the chair shot, I don't know how it really undermines them. I don't know if you mean like, you know, Brock didn't come out there to save Heyman. Brock wasn't on the show. But is Brock going to take an issue with Seth Rollins? Because we don't even know why Brock and Heyman are back together. WWE's just like, oh, we'll just put Heyman with Brock again. You know, after Heyman kind of dissed him and left him, and now he's just back with it. Brock's okay with it. So, you know, there could be an overlap there with Rollins and Brock and Breaker and all this stuff going on. But Heyman's association with Brock for some reason seems separate from the vision. And Brock's never with those guys together unless it's War Games. So, yeah, I don't know. But all I know is Brock's next appearance, when he issues reminds people about his WrestleMania Open Challenge, you got to have Oba come out there, or at the very least, Gunther come out there. But if it's going to be Oba, I'm curious, what Gunther does. Does that just mean that he's going to work with Rey Mysterio? I mean, that would make sense too. He took the mask off of Dragon Lee briefly on Raw. Could they do a mask match? Could they do a mask versus career match with Rey Mysterio? I mean, Gunther needs somebody else to retire. The only problem I have with that is that I thought that was going to be reserved for Dominic. I thought Dominic and his dad would have a mask versus career, or mask match or career match. Or maybe Dominic, like I said, who I believe is going to win the WWE title within the next year. He's going to win Money in the Bank and cash in successfully. If Rey can hold out that long, I'd have Rey challenge Dominic, title versus mask versus career. And if Dominic wins, Rey unmasks and retires. That might be setting up now for WrestleMania. They may be setting up Rey Mysterio retiring and unmasking at WrestleMania. They might. Otherwise, what was the point of deliberately pulling off Dragon Lee's mask like that? Maybe that's what they have set up for him, which to me is good, because I think Gunther and Brock is a match we absolutely need, but I might be more intrigued at an Oba and Brock match than Gunther and Brock at this point. So I'm kind of hoping for that is what they wind up doing. Oh, Blake Monroe must be in the ring right now. So she's got a street fight, right, with Jada Parker. I will not keep you guys too long from that. Thank you for 5 more. Ryan Adams, Gauntlet competitors are Ivy, Io, Lyra, Bailey, Asuka, and Raquel. That's right. So I feel like Becky, I guess, is Becky going to do something with Jessica Carr? They're not going to do Becky Lynch versus Jessica Carr at WrestleMania, are they? Becky is not going to be off of WrestleMania. She's going to be a part of that. So where does Becky factor in? I feel like Becky might come out and try to get involved in the gauntlet. I feel like Kyrie's going to cost Asuka, and that'll set up Asuka and Kyrie at WrestleMania. But I like the idea of Raquel winning as well, and I think she's the only one that really makes sense at this point, based on that field, because even Io Sky, as much as I believe she's the best women's wrestler in the world, and she absolutely better be on WrestleMania, Io Sky versus AJ Lee feels weird because of the beloved nature of the babyfaces that they are. So I don't know about that match and how that's going to work. So we will find out on Raw. Maybe we'll do a watch along on Monday night. We'll just watch it together. I'm loving the Charlotte and Alexa Bliss stuff. It keeps Charlotte out of that main event spotlight, which fans hated, and Charlotte looks like she's legitimately happy and having a good time. Plus, she's got the fans off her back, which they were complete assholes for every minute of her success. Sometimes it was deserved, but oftentimes it wasn't. So just the fact that she doesn't have that to worry about, that pressure, that annoyance anymore, I think is really good. Yeah, Charlotte winning the Rumble last year was a bit too much, and she heard it from the audience. Remember when she came back after being off all that time? She came out in a yellow banana costume, and the fans just shit on her, because they're just sick of her. It's that type of shit. That's when, WWE keeps going back to that well. It's not like when I complain about the fans getting frustrated, it's not like they don't sometimes have points. Please understand that I understand a lot of what they are trying to say. The problem is they just say it so bad. They cannot control their emotions to not sound like a douchebag. Got to throw out their insults. Whenever you want to try to make an analytical statement, you can't call Cody by his little stupid nickname you gave him. You just look like a dick when you do that. And it's in bad faith. If you can't speak normally, when you're ranting and raving about some wrestler winning too much and you're calling them names and nicknames and all that shit, I'm like, it's a bad faith post. It's a bad faith opinion. Because you're so caught up in your own fucking head that you can't look at anything beyond that. You can't expand your mind, beyond your own anger, and your own frustration, your own bullshit. And a lot of times it's unfounded. And it's very rarely do they have a point. Very rarely will I stand up here and say, man, all these screaming, yelling fans with the flaming pitchforks, they're right. Oftentimes I'm like, y'all need to chill. I don't know what you need, but you need something. You need something to chill out. Maybe I'm just an old head. I don't know, but I just don't get all overly emotional about nothing. I feel like that's a waste of time. Big waste of time. John C., did I talk about the Drew Cody problem? I wasn't sure if there was a problem, other than the entire scenario. But yes, the entire title match, if you just go back to the beginning, we opened up with Cody winning the title, how he won the title, what this now means for his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, and where it leaves Drew McIntyre, and where it leaves Sami Zayn, and what we could see from Sami. Is Sami in the middle of this year-long story to get all the way to Saudi Arabia next year? Does this include a Sami Zayn heel turn, and they do a Brett USA Canada thing with him where he's a baby face over there and a heel here? Like, he's a heel here and then he goes into WrestleMania in Saudi and wins the title as a heel, but he's cheered by the crowd. And based on everything going on in Iran right now, I'm not putting a guarantee that WrestleMania is even going to be in Saudi Arabia by the time we get to next year. Hopefully everything cools off by then. But if I'm a WWE contracted star, I'm getting that nervous feeling again about being over there in Saudi Arabia where, things felt pretty good for a few years. But the situation in this country that we're going through right now, this is what happens when your enemy is a pronoun. You get the country destroyed. You get a bunch of people worried about girls with broad shoulders swimming and people using pronouns and people putting a rainbow in Target, and you elect absolutely insane leaders that do insane shit and fuck over its citizens left and right. And all those MAGA people are voting against every interest they've ever had. And it's ridiculous. And it's all because of stupid shit. So now we might have a WrestleMania that could be in jeopardy over there, which is fine with me. If they got to move WrestleMania to the States, great. But I don't want a war to happen to make that happen. I'd rather not have war and have WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia than have WrestleMania in the States and have a war. So whatever it takes to, end the violence is what I'm in for, is what I'm hoping for. And hopefully it does not affect WrestleMania or any of the other future Saudi shows, because I think they got to go over there twice before next year's WrestleMania. So one of those shows could be in jeopardy. We will have to see. But anyway, I'm in jeopardy being late for work if I don't wrap up this podcast right now. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out this afternoon again with us. Make sure you're here tomorrow night for the WrestleMania 26 watch-along. Since it's a long pay-per-view and it's over 3 hours long, whenever we do a long one, we go live an hour earlier than we normally do. So tomorrow's WrestleMania 26 watch-along will go live at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. And you got to also remember, we changed the clocks tonight. So if for any reason you have to work on a Sunday morning, you are losing an hour's sleep. I have nightmares of being a GM back in North Carolina. We did brunch every Sunday, and I had to be there at like 6 o'clock in the morning to just start getting everything set up. And I would close the restaurant and lock up on Saturday nights. So on daylight savings nights, once a year, I would have to lock up at, 12 o'clock, maybe later, then drive home. And then once the clock hits 2 o'clock, it skips to 3 o'clock, and then I got to be up and be back at the restaurant at 6 a.m. I am so glad that life is over. The time change ain't going to affect me at all. I'm just going to go about my business as usual. But we are going live an hour earlier tomorrow, and we are going to have more daylight. So just keep that in mind for tomorrow afternoon. Don't miss the watch-along as we relive Shawn Michaels' final match in the WWE until he came back bald in Saudi Arabia. All right, that's going to do it for me, guys. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and I'll be catching you all tomorrow night for the watch-along. Peace, y'all.